Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. You're on my co-host, John. John, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Well, see you so cheery. Makes me happy. And today we got Mark. Mark, how you doing today?
Very well. How are you guys?
Doing good, Mark, man. Thanks for coming on. Hey,
Absolutely.
you know, it's I just want to thank everybody, for reaching out to me and contacting me, let me know y'all want to come on the show. And as y'all can see on the little ticker, it says where y'all can get a hold of me at any time. If you have questions, if you just want me to read your story, please do it. Also, I want to talk a little bit about Nova research. I'm in the middle of working on doing this study myself. It's all virtual. It's done out of the house. Y'all need to give them a call. It's in our profile on Facebook, and it's also will be, after the show, it will be in the details. So please go check out Nova Research. Now, Mark, I want to get into a little bit because you were in two different services.
That's correct.
One was the National Guard, and the other one was Coast Guard.
I started with the National Guard, then I went active duty, and then I had an 8-year break in service, and nobody was taking prior service other than the Coast Guard at that point, and then I went to the Coast Guard.
Well, that's
because I had a baby on the way, so I had to get somebody to pay the bills.
So let's talk about when you first went in. What years did you go in?
I went to boot camp at Fort Bliss, Texas in 1987 or 88. 88, I think it was. And joined the Maryland National Guard for about a year and a half or so at 17, and decided I liked it and I wanted to go active duty. And then I went active duty, went to the 21st Replacement Battalion in Germany, and got assigned to the 1st Battalion, 27th Field Artillery, MLRS, hoorah, from Babenhausen, Germany. And did time there, and then we got called out to Desert Storm from there.
Okay, how old were you when you went in Desert Storm?
I was about 19.
Okay, but you went in at 17. I just
Correct.
heard that.
Correct.
Did your parents have to sign?
My dad had to sign for me. That is correct. And he asked me, he said, "What are you going to do if I don't sign?" I said, "Well, wait till I'm 18 and go anyway." He said, "Give me the paper."
Or you should have said, "I'm going to stay here and keep spending your money."
Yeah,
That's what I would have said.
there you go. That's a good answer.
And I mean that's great, man. At 17 years old, you knew you wanted to go in and do something for your country and everything. So
Absolutely.
let's talk about when you got over to Desert Storm. Where were y'all stationed at, based at? I guess not stationed, but based at.
We flew into Saudi Arabia. We spent the first 2 nights on tarmac that had just been laid like a day or two prior to us getting there. That was December 15th, if I remember correctly. And it was freezing cold. I mean, freezing cold at night, freezing cold. And we slept on the ground. We put our duffel bags all around us in a circle to try to break the wind off of us, which didn't really help very much. And we pretty much froze all night. So we were in Saudi Arabia for a few days. At that point, we were waiting for all of our equipment to come in, all of our spiels, our rocket launchers, and all of our other equipment. And then when it finally came in, we went straight out to the desert. I mean, straight, because we could fire 30 kilometers out. So we were ready to do fire mission at that point.
Wow. And so, and that's what amazes me is how fast they can immobilize an airport that quick.
It was real quick.
And then, so when y'all went over and y'all decided that, well, y'all didn't decide, y'all got put over down by Kuwait and everything, what was it like there? Living conditions. That's what I want to know. I want to talk about the living conditions.
We had, at one point in time, we had tents that we slept in, GP Smalls and Hex tents. But then it got to the point where we had to sleep in our trucks. We had one night in particular that they came and they said, "Hey, the satellite's down. We can't see the enemy. We got to pack up and move." And I'm like, "What do you mean satellites? What are you talking about? Can't see the enemy?" They said, "Oh, well, we could see a license plate from space, license plate on a car." And I got an education that day in the fact that we can see a license plate on a car from outer space. So we couldn't see the enemy. Yeah. So we couldn't see what was going on. And then, at this point, ground war had already been declared. So, you had air war and then you had ground war. So ground war had already been declared. So we're coming up in convoy, and all of a sudden I hear the Vulcan going off. So there's somebody is shooting the Vulcan in front of us, and it's the infantry. And they had been approached by a platoon-size element of the Republican Guard. It turned out to be 2 divisions of the Republican Guard that were hiding behind the sand dunes. So we immediately set up fire mission. We start firing on them all through the night, firing, sending rockets downrange, and the infantry. And then finally in the Air Force in the morning with their A-10s, we actually had to get on the radio, call the Air Force and tell them get their A-10s out of our line of fire or we're going to hit their planes. And we lit them up all night long and through the next day. And we're talking 2 divisions of men, about 2,000 people, if I'm recall correctly. We took no casualties and we took no prisoners. Every last one of them went to meet the Baker.
So I'm kind of curious. I brought this up before, in large part because I was in an engineer unit, and when I say you guys, you're part of MLRS. I don't know how you say it's how they're titled, but MLRS is multi-launch rocket system, shoots off
Correct.
the back of a truck, right? And you guys, there was a whole lot of you around us when the war took off, and you guys can lay a lot of you can lay a lot of bombs down real quick.
They called it metal rain. One vehicle can take out a grid square. With there's 6 rockets on each side, so 12 rockets total, six in each pod. That 12 rockets can take out an entire grid square on the map, and will leave nothing. It obliterates it.
Now that's badass because that has buttons.
Yes. And
Damn.
now they've actually upgraded. They have HIMARS, which fires 60 kilometers instead of 30 kilometers, and it's in Ukraine right now being used.
Man,
really?
I have missed out on good toys.
Same thing. It just what's the acronym HIMARS? What does that mean? MLRS is multi-launch rocket system.
Yeah, I'd have to look it back up, but they can fire now 60 kilometers out. And
Jesus,
if I'm not mistaken,
you guys blow up a lot of shit.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, within our rockets, and I think I'm correct, there's 144 submunitions in each rocket. When warhead event takes place, the warhead peels back in 4 different directions and sprays out all those little bomblets. And it explodes above ground, on ground, it doesn't matter. You're not getting away from it. You better be below ground because it's coming for you. And they dumped us metal.
One of them.
Oh,
I tell you what, y'all had the coolest damn toys.
You ought to see them fire, brother. You ought to see. I mean,
he calls it toys.
They're loud. They handle business.
My goodness. And so, okay, and we were talking earlier and everything about, your chemical alarm coming out, going off and everything. And so you're sitting there and the chemical alarms go off. You said what? How many times they went off?
We had 2 different occasions.
And how fast did you get your mock suit on?
I got Mach 4 on as fast as I possibly could.
and man, that is.
And then after I got the mop gear on, that's when I broke out my testers, my little blister testers, popped them and see whether or not they pop positive, and they pop positive both times.
Oh wow!
When the government tells me, "Oh no, you were never exposed," that's a flat out lie.
Right. Okay. But on that, were you told at that time that the alarms were faulty? That they weren't working?
It was later on.
That doesn't surprise me.
And how long were you there, Mark? How long were you in country?
I was there from December 15th to April 29th.
Okay.
So it's amazing.
Just a little bit before me.
That's
and you went. Did you go back to Germany, or where'd you go back to?
Germany. Back to Babenhausen, Germany.
I want to get back to the rockets. I want to get back to that. I really do.
Merry Christmas, man.
Well, right. And so, being on a ship, a supply ship, you really don't have the firing power like everybody else does. You got to rely on pretty much everybody else to protect you. So what other vehicles were around y'all to help protect y'all? It doesn't sound like y'all need it.
We had Humvees and Deuce and a Halfs and the Spiels, the rocket launchers. That was it. That's all we had.
Yeah, it didn't sound like y'all need it at all. Any
No.
other no tanks, no nothing. Y'all didn't need them.
Nope, none of that. None of that. Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, we could fire 30 clicks out. So, you know, we're way back and we're hitting you, and you don't know where it's coming from. You know. Now, granted, the situation with the infantry that was in front of us, that you know, the Republican Guard snuck up on them. You know, and I mean, I was probably, I don't know, a mile from that position, I guess, somewhere around in there, close enough that I'm hearing the Vulcan machine gun go off, and I look over at my sergeant. I said, I think we're a little bit close.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say you were a little bit close.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
you know, but like off in the distance, we'd be looking through like high powered binoculars and stuff. And what's weird was everything always looked green. I don't know if y'all noticed that. Everything was
Yeah.
always green in the distance. And I always found that weird.
Yeah, probably just the way the geography was, the way it laid out, it just kind of blended and meshed together. But it wasn't all that green. I mean, yeah, there were some bushes here and there, some greenery, but it wasn't like lush.
Yeah. See, from a
I
distance.
never saw any greenery. Hell, I never saw any greenery.
No, I'm
Not
talking
until
about
I
what
went
I'm
to.
talking about the explosions. The
No,
explosions.
I know what you're referencing. You're talking
Right.
about the
Oh, yeah,
ambient air.
Yeah,
You know.
the green glow.
Yeah,
Off in the
Oh,
distance.
yeah.
And I always found that fascinating that it was that color, knowing that most of it was sand.
Well, what's really impressive is when the rockets start going off, and number one, it's got a lot of noise to it, and number two, there's a big white light that surrounds the vehicle as the rocket's lifting off. It's pretty impressive.
Well, I tell you what, I tell you when we're out at sea, and when you know, I don't ever remember them saying, "Oh, we're at war." I just remember airplanes taking off and missiles shooting out. That's all I remember.
My God, man, when ground war was declared, we're all in our tent. We're all asleep. We've got the radio on for AFRS, right? The Armed Forces Radio Service. All of a sudden, we hear the announcement on the radio that ground war has been declared. That wakes everybody up at the same time. Kind of weird, but that's how it happened. So
Yeah.
immediately we're going to get our mop gear, mop 4 gear on, because we don't know what's going to take place. Well, my mop gear was in my duffel bag, and I had it padlocked, and I couldn't find my keys.
Oh shit.
Because I was also the unit armorer, so I got into my armor toolkit, broke out a file, and luckily the lock was brass, and I had to file the lock off so I could get into my mop gear as fast as I possibly could.
Yeah,
That's
and
funny.
see, and that's like because the testimony that they came out with is like over 40,000 of our alarms were faulty. There at least has to be one out of 40,000 that was working properly. Huh? There has to be.
There's no argument to that. I was on a chemical recon team for my unit. The E7 for the battalion, or I'm sorry, for the brigade, he had a like an Olympics, if you will, where everybody competed against each other. Each unit competed against each other. And my team won. We won. In other words, we were doing everything how we were supposed to do it, and it was evidenced by the fact that we won that little competition. Now, if my M8 alarm did not go off during training, during the competition, unless someone physically went over and hit the button to make it go off, why all of a sudden is it faulty now? Why all of a sudden are my MK or whatever, I forget what it's called, but my little glass ampule pack that I pop it and the colors start mixing together and it shows me that it's positive for nerve gas. Why is it showing that it's positive for nerve gas?
Right. Absolutely correct.
2 and 2 makes 4.
And that just gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling, doesn't it, Mark?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I get a letter from the VA, right, that says your unit has been identified at being around Chemesia, where we accidentally blew up warheads and your area was contaminated.
Accidentally.
Then not too long after that, I get another letter that says, oh, we made a mistake. Your unit was never there.
Oh,
What?
really?
Yeah, I got 2 different letters.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I know how it goes when they say we're never there, but to send you a letter that you're there and send a letter. Wait a second, no, you weren't there. I mean,
Exactly.
they know you were in the area. I mean, they know
Exactly.
that. So
Exactly. Well, Saddam Hussein made a statement. He said, "You may not regret coming here, but your children and your children's children will regret it." Now, as I understand it from a little bit of reading that I've done, there is a very large percentage of Desert Storm veterans that their children are born with developmental delay. And it's believed to be as a result of our contamination. All 3 of my children were born with developmental delay. All 3 of them are on the autism spectrum at some level. All 3.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that. And that's, I tell everybody that. This is what I tell everybody is that I believe most of the things started with us. And then everything has just progressed through the United States so
Yep.
bad with all the food, the chemicals, everything.
Absolutely.
But I believe when we got back, we exposed our kids, our stepkids, our wives. I mean, everybody.
100%.
And so I
Yeah.
believe we were, I'm not going to say the guinea pigs, but we were the guinea pigs.
Well, you have to remember this too, Kevin. We were shot up with all kinds of different needles. Line up against the wall, drop your trousers. So we were hit with all kinds of stuff. God only knows what they shoved in my butt. I have no idea. And then you got to couple that with all of the other combinations: the bug spray, the cans of soda that were sitting out in the sun, the Saudi diet soda and this and that. So you've got all kinds of different combinations of chemicals that were mixed together in one fashion or another, let alone nerve gas.
Right.
So
absolutely correct.
I mean, we're damned if we do and damned if we don't.
And
so Mark,
I just want to say this, and I'm going to give this to Christy right here because I know she's the one that said this. Your body is the evidence.
Yeah.
Your body is the evidence. I believe that 110%.
I've had hand tremors ever since I came back. Never had a problem before. I've had nothing but bowel trouble ever since I came back. Never had a problem before. Ever since I came back, it started immediately.
Oh yeah, mine started while I was there after we left. While I was still in. While I was still in. And I mean, that's just the one thing that I would literally tell each and every person that's sitting and listening to this is a lot of people are just starting to go through it, but we've been through it.
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
think as time goes on, they're going to realize that everybody is not healthy because of the chemicals.
Correct.
And we got to
Absolutely.
figure out what is going on. And is there going to be a cure? I don't know. Is there things that can help us? You're damn right. There is things that can help us.
Absolutely.
Exercising, losing weight, taking herb vitamins, a lot of people take CBD. A lot of people do marijuana, for the pain. A lot of people, they eat strictly the carnivore diet. A lot of people do all kinds of stuff because they're just trying not to be as sick as they could be if they didn't take care of themselves.
Correct. And I'll tell you something that kind of blows my mind, if you will. When the Iraqis lit the oil wells on fire, I sucked that smoke in every day. It would be noon, and you're using a flashlight to see because you can't see because of the smoke. I'm
Right.
surprised that my lungs are not jacked up. I am shocked by that, quite honestly, that I don't have lung trouble because I suck it in every day.
We learned this last week, and a lot of y'all may not have heard this, so I'm going to go ahead and repeat this. And this blew my mind, and I've been dwelling on this, John, ever since I learned this last week with our last guest. He came out and made a really good point. That water that Saddam put all the oil out into the Persian Gulf around Kuwait and all that water that had oil film and everything, Navy guys were drinking that also.
Yeah.
So we weren't just inhaling it, we were digesting it. It was cooked in our foods. And not one time did it ever process through my head that by chance the water that we drank out in the Persian Gulf had all that chemicals. No telling what else it had in it. And so,
Exactly.
and so I'm really surprised that our bodies were able to handle it. I think it was because we were young, and um, some did, some didn't. I mean, Jeremy Daniels is a prime example. He went out there, came back, he's got MS, and I mean, and he was young when his started.
Well, you got to
And
figure they were using RO, the reverse osmosis, as far as to take the salt water, make it, into drinkable water, but they weren't filtering it.
well, right,
They were
see,
going RO.
right, y'all gonna make me start crying because knowing I drank all that stuff. Oh my gosh.
Eh,
And then they're over here getting mad if you drink a beer. I'm
Yeah.
like, that was a lot better than what the hell
yeah.
I drank in the Persian Gulf.
I'll tell you the other thing now that you mentioned beer, and I'm not a beer drinker myself. I do like a good whiskey every now and then. But what amazes me is how we've got young men that we put a rifle in their hands, we send them to war, but yet they can't buy beer.
Until they're 21. I know. It's so stupid.
Yeah, I don't get that myself.
I don't get that.
If you're old enough to join the military, I think you should be able to
They
buy
started that in
alcohol.
1993, to let y'all know. They started that rule came in 1993, right before, I think it was around July, because as I was getting out, that rule came into effect.
Ain't that something? And I'm
Yeah,
not saying you need to drink responsibly. I'm not saying go out and get sloshed, but you're putting a rifle in a man's hand and sending him to war, and you're not going to let him have a beer.
well, I mean, no offense, but Navy guys, that's what they do. They drink. And I mean, but that's when they go overseas, they can drink at an early age. So it doesn't matter there. I mean, they're going to drink no matter what.
Yeah.
It's just the dumbest thing. If you can tell my
Well,
kid that they can go off to war, but you can't have a beer, that's the stupidest crap
in
I've ever
Germany,
heard.
I want to say in Germany, is it age 16 you're legally drink, or maybe even younger? Because
Yep.
Mark, I was stationed in Hanau, I was stationed in Wildflicken, I was stationed in Karlsruhe.
Oh,
So I mean, uh, and I was
you weren't.
out.
Yeah, I was in Babenhausen. You weren't far from me in Hanau.
I,
No, I
it,
was no just down
so, I mean,
down
was
the
there
road.
beer good in Germany?
Oh yeah. Oh,
I'm going
what
to
kind
tell
of
you
question
something.
is that?
So,
Yeah.
so on Guam, I'll tell this story on the air. I don't care. So on Guam, I was supposed to, go. I was going home the next day on leave, and when we got back from Desert Storm, so all of us went out. We drank and partied, like a farewell, but come back soon party. I cannot tell you. We drank these 3 shots. One was called Monkey Brains, and the guy could make it, and it looked like a brain of a monkey.
Oh
Then he
Lord.
Oh,
did Gorilla Farts, and that drink stunk. And then he did one called Rattlesnake. Well, this is along with like the 6 pitchers of beer all of us were sitting there drinking at that time. And so uh, the Rattlesnake was the best one. It tastes like butterscotch. I asked the guy for another one. That was my first mistake, was drinking the first one. My big mistake was when he told me, Kevin, you really don't want another one. I want another one. I do not remember after
you
that. I
don't remember it.
remember being picked up by a cab. I was in a ditch on Guam, being taken back to the ship. And then they had to load me into the car to get me to the airport. I do remember that.
That's a good sailor.
I tell you what, man. I mean, and then like almost every place we went, you have to try. Like, in Thailand, they had Thailand tea. That drink will mess you up. But yeah, I mean, it's just that part. It's like, we went to Desert Storm. When we came back, our relief was to go out and party, have a good time. I mean, that was to get the stress off of us for working our ass off.
Well, you
You
certainly didn't
know,
get alcohol over there, but I'll tell you this story real quick, and I've actually shared this with Jack Daniels because they made a donation to a friend of mine who was a knife maker, and he has classes for veterans for free, and we've got the barrel staves that they gave us to use for handles for the knives. we had a fella, his wife sent him a box of macaroni and cheese and a can of Coke. And he's like, what in the world? What is she?
You
Curiosity got a few days later. He opens up the mac and cheese and there's a little shooter of Jack Daniels inside the macaroni and cheese. That's what the Coke was for.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
dang, what a great idea.
So I shared that story with Jack Daniels, and they donated some barrel staves to us for a veterans project. So that was really cool.
And you know, and I
Oh.
also explained to everybody, I don't know if most of y'all, you know, we're coming towards the end of the show. We got about 5 more minutes, but I can tell y'all, which, you know, y'all will understand this part. Well, y'all probably won't. Y'all probably be like, why in the hell did this happen? Most of the Navy guys will. Jason will. Every port that we pretty much left out of, customs would come on our ship.
Oh boy.
They would search everywhere, make sure everybody was intact. There was no, you know, contraband, any of that stuff. And, you know, a lot of people's like, well, you got good hiding places on the ship. Let me tell you, they know the hiding places.
Yeah, they do.
You know, the hiding places.
They know the hiding places. And so, I mean, I'm sure some guys got away with some stuff and some guys didn't, but I've seen some guys get busted for contraband, man. You know, especially leaving out of Thailand. And that's just the crazy part about it is, you know, a lot of people don't realize when we get back and we're on, you know, we get back from tour, we get back this, we let loose. Navy guys let loose. The Marines really let loose. I want to tell you what, guys on a ship on the Marines, you don't ever want to be short patrol with a bunch of Marines coming
No,
back from a war.
you don't want that.
Them guys are raring to go. I mean, they still want to fight, and they'll, I mean, they'll fight each other inside of a bar. That's the one thing I'll give the Marines. They don't back down from nobody.
No, they do not. No, they do not.
And you know, and but that's the fun memories of it. I mean, I wouldn't say they had fun with it, but it's fun memories to look back at our age and the stuff that they trusted us with. They trusted me, even at 54, I wouldn't trust me with that stuff they trusted me with then.
Well, I was a supply clerk in my unit and unit armor. You know, I mean, I was responsible for multi-millions of dollars at 19 years old. I was responsible. And if I didn't have my paperwork in order, guess what? I either went to jail or I never had a paycheck for the next few years.
Right.
At 19.
Right. And it's hard for people to understand that. It's hard for people to understand that if they would never served or never went in, it is hard for them to sit there and say, you know what, guys, you know, what was it like over there? I can't explain it. I can't explain what it was like to somebody because they wouldn't believe it. They just wouldn't. And right, John? I mean,
it was different for sure.
yeah.
I share stories with people all the time. I mean, like, you know, a booby trap that should have went off on me. It was a fragmentation grenade, and it should have went off. The spoon never moved. It should have went off. You know, and I share that with people, and they're like, no, and I'm like, okay, don't believe it then. I know what happened.
I mean, yeah, there's all sorts of stories like that out there. You know, I always say that's just God pushing you out of the way. Good luck. You know, keep walking that way. You know, that's how I look at it.
It was just on one occasion where I should have bought the farm. That was on one occasion.
Right. I mean, look how many guys should have been ran over by tanks out there. You know, or you know, I'm sure that happened. And
actually, and we got word that we were no longer allowed to sleep in or under or around our truck. That we had to physically be inside the vehicle because somebody had got run over by a tank.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I feel
they were asleep. They were asleep outside on the ground next to the tank, and I guess whoever was driving didn't check, and they literally ran over them and killed them.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm telling you, it's just you know, the stuff we did over there, the stuff that, you know, I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of, you know, what I've accomplished while I was in. I'm sure y'all are proud of what y'all accomplished while y'all were in. I mean, John's like always telling me I'm not a good storyteller, but you
I'm
know,
not. I'm not
but then
really.
he'll tell
I'm
me a
not.
story, and that's
Yeah.
the thing I don't understand.
Well, I can tell you,
Well,
I'm not excited, if you will, over what we had to do, but I'm proud of what we did because we liberated a country who, as I understood it, you know, a woman walking down the streets of Kuwait immediately, you know, she was going to be raped by an Iraqi soldier. Period. That was par for the course.
Right.
So if I had the opportunity, and I did, thank God, to be a part of being a liberating force to free those people, then you know what, whatever we got to do.
Oh yeah, no, exactly, 110%. You know, I agree with that. I agree with that. I mean, and I tell you, the way that the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, and Coast Guard, everybody worked hand in hand, that was phenomenal. I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
and that's where you give it to the logistics guys and officers and all them guys. They have to have that stuff ready to go.
Well, you know, about 2 years ago, I went down to SeaWorld. They were giving out free tickets to veterans, and I took my whole family. And I met a whole bunch of different veterans, different branches and whatnot. We're sitting down, we're talking, we're having camaraderie. And my wife comes up to me, she says, "It really is a brotherhood, isn't it?" I said, "Yes, it is.
It is. It
No
is a
matter what branch
brotherhood.
you are, you know, we were in the same sand. So yes, it is a brotherhood."
And I will say this for even, you know, I make a fun a lot about the Army and the Navy game. We kicked y'all's ass. But I mean, I'm just saying, I I really and truly, when one of my customers went there, he said, you know, everybody was rooting for different teams, but you could tell they were all one. And
Yeah,
he said that was phenomenal. And I'm like, that's how it is.
that's exactly how it is. And look, don't come around messing with one of us, because if you do, you're going to have to mess with all of us.
All I can say is one thing. If I have to give it to anybody out there, I'd want to be on the Marine side when they get back from a war inside of a bar. That's all I can say is because them guys go crazy.
I'll have to tell you my Marine joke later on.
And you know, and that's what's great. That's what's really good about tonight. About everybody sharing their stories. Everybody's, you know, getting together. It's a way. This is an outlet, and this is what I want the outlet to be for each and every person out there. That's
It
why I
is.
want y'all. If you've never been on the show, man, send me a message. It's going across the screen. You can contact me there. You can contact me through Facebook or John or anybody and
And
everything.
if I can, and I don't mean this as any kind of self promotion, but there's an organization out of Nashville called Creative Vets, and it's for combat veterans. And what they do is they fly you out to Nashville, they put you up in a hotel, they feed you, they take care of everything, and they go to the Grand Ole Opry with songwriters, and you write a song about your time in the military. It's a wonderful
Oh, that's
organization.
badass, man. That is badass.
I had the help of a fellow named Joseph Wooten, who plays for the Steve Miller Band. Been playing for him for 25 years. He plays keyboard, and my song is called "Still Telling Mine." And it's just an incredible opportunity. If you're a combat veteran, I recommend that you apply to them, because it helps me, and has helped me and still helps me to this day, because you know I do deal with PTSD, and I have good days and bad days. So you know, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's right. And you know, we're coming to the end of the show, everybody. But to this show, we're still going to be live because we're bringing Dr. Glom on, and Wade's going to join up here in just a second. She's got some you. After we're done here, Mark, you might want to go on Facebook, get on the Go For Side Effects page, and listen what Dr. Glum. She has some fascinating news about to come out.
all
And so
right,
I
awesome.
recommend everybody listening to it. So we're going to be on another extra 30 minutes. And Mark, thank you so much for getting a hold of me. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate it, man.
Time.
All right. Well, I want you to have a great night, man.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.